What? The skeletons of the Caped Crusaders, shrouded in their cowls.
Hold on to me, Commissioner.
In a fluoroscopic cabinet where they met their maker.
Don't say it.
Under high voltage X-ray. Oh.
Hello, hello, cheers, my comic book friends. It is I, Damien, aka Sleepy Reader, and this is yet another one of my comic book countdown videos. I have 10 comics from the past week or two that I read, and I'm going to rank them from the one I enjoyed the least down to my most enjoyed comic of this batch, and give you some random thoughts along the way, keeping everything extremely subjective. And yeah, today's Wednesday, and I just went to the comic book store an hour or two ago. So at the end of the video, I'll just quickly show you the comics I picked up this week, which I may or may not get around to reading by the end of the week. So before I dive into that, I wanted to say that I got the Doctor issue 2 from Brian LCS, who that's the name of his channel, Brian LCS. His real name is Brian Brandow, as listed in the credits here. He has done issue 1 and now issue 2 on Kickstarter, so I assume there'll be an issue 3. I read issue 1 and was intrigued. I read issue 2 and was really liking it and much more hooked on the story now and the characters. So I really look forward to more issues. And yeah, it's fun to see a new creator who you knew knew through YouTube before before you even start putting out a comic, and see the depth of the comic book grow as it moves along. So I think this will make a really good read. I'm suspecting, we'll see how it progresses, but I'm suspecting it'll make a really good read in a collected form, especially. So yeah, I wasn't gonna rank this with the professional comics and stuff, but I wanted to mention how much I liked it. I also read this new comic book day, free comic book day comic that has the Fantastic Four and the giant size X-Men in it. They're rebooting the Fantastic Four, even though it's the same writer, but I guess because now they've got the artist Humberto Ramos on it, who I guess is a fan favorite. For me, his art never was super appealing, and I really didn't like it on the Fantastic Four. The story itself was kind of cute. The little short story in here was kind of a cute story. It didn't, unless cuteness and cosmic adventures is kind of what we are supposed to expect from this rebooted Fantastic Four series. Unless that's all there is to it, it hasn't really given you what the mission statement is for this version of the Fantastic Four. I've heard that Ryan North's previous run, which just ended or is just about to end, was really great, and I've been meaning to binge it sometime on Marvel Unlimited. And I will probably check. I'll keep an eye out on this new series on Marvel Unlimited. I can't see myself. I'm not excited enough to buy the comic physically. I probably won't buy the giant size X-Men comic physically either, but I was more intrigued, and they definitely gave you a bit of the mission statement that we are in a story taking place in the time zone of the original giant size X-Men #1, when Len Wein rebooted the X-Men and gave us kind of the new X-Men that was successful ever since then. But with a new time traveling character added into the mix. So I think that's what's going on. So I was kind of intrigued, but I think I also will just read it digitally. So now on to the 10 comics I want to rank. In at number 10 is Absolute Green Lantern. One of these things where after I read issue 1, I wasn't going to pick it up anymore, but on a whim, I decided to do it after all. I guess I subconsciously wanted to know what would happen next. We only get a little more reveals in this issue. It's very decompressed, And maybe I'm not hating the art as much. I'm not saying it's bad art at all. It's just kind of not a style of art that immediately appeals to me. It leans heavily on the digital coloring to give most of the backgrounds and stuff, as I said the last time. So I'm kind of curious what's going on. The Green Lanterns, the rings, Abin Sur, they don't necessarily seem like something that's good at all, which is intriguing. But the slowness of the rollout of any information is a bit annoying. In at number 9, I put Godzilla, Here There Be Aliens. It looks like a pretty fun comic. This first issue is just mostly set up on a character, um, with a twist at the end. So the world is not what the character himself thought. He works for the government in studying aliens and monsters, and and then everything gets turned on its head on the last page or two, at least for him. I didn't feel any deep feeling about I didn't have any buy-in to the point where I was bothered or shocked a whole lot by the twist. But anyway, it's sort of intriguing. I liked the art quite a bit. There's only a little bit of actual monsters and aliens in here, in this first issue, because it is all kind of set up. In at number 8 is this comic Blood and Thunder. Again, bought on a whim. I wasn't even sure what the title was, the way it was hidden behind. I just flipped through and I said, oh, the art looks interesting. I was really hooked by this diagram or picture of the settled asteroid with its layered city, which life gets crappier and crappier the lower layers you're on, and I thought that was fun. And we've got a lot of different aliens and humans living on this asteroid, and I think the humans are the upper classes and the aliens are the lower classes for the most part. But it's not totally clear to me yet. And one of the gimmicks, she's a bounty hunter, and one of the gimmicks is that she has a talking gun with personality. So she's blood, and the gun is thunder. So it's kind of fun. Um, Almost for me a little bit forgettable. So I almost forgot what was going on about it in there until I started talking to you guys. In at number 7 is, I don't have a physical copy of it. I bought it digitally. I should have pulled it up on my iPad to look at it while I'm talking about it. But is this new comic Battle Beast from Robert Kirkman? Um, Actually, the Blood and Thunder at number 8 is a Robert Kirkman adjacent property. I guess he had a little bit to do with the ideas behind it, although it's mostly, I think, the ideas of Benito Cereno and E.J. Su, the artist. Sorry, I backed up. But so it's under the sort of Robert Kirkman imprint, I believe. So then Battle Beast, I think, is written by Robert Kirkman. I better check that. And it has really exciting art by, I'm without the comic in front of me, I'm drawing a blank on his name. The guy who drew hundreds of issues of Invincible with Robert Kirkman, and it's a fun, very simple, ultra violent plot, where Battle Beast is just looking for someone who can defeat him, and so I think issue by issue there'll be a new fight where he searches for someone who can defeat them, and maybe there'll be some twists and revelations along the way. So it feels like it's fairly predictable. I might keep reading it digitally. It definitely feels like something that you would want to read issue by issue, because each issue will probably be like an installment, and to read it all together in a trade, reading chapter after chapter after chapter rather than waiting between, probably will be a weaker effect. That's my thought. Um, the art was kind of fun. I was not a fan of the coloring, and just the whole thing just seems so simple to me that I put it in at number 7. And number 6 is Supergirl, which is kind of a weird thing for me because I first read it very quickly and was not excited by it. And then my daughter read it and she liked it. She didn't think it was the greatest thing ever, but she liked it. And so then I gave it a second read, and I think I saw more of what Sophie Campbell, who is the writer and artist on the book, um, what she was working on. And I think what threw me out of it at first was it's a weird mix of continuities. There's a lot of the Silver Age Supergirl in here, but then there's other stuff that isn't from the Silver Age Supergirl, and it confused me. It gave me a tonal pulling in different directions. And Sophie Campbell likes to put in a lot of dialogue where the character is going, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, this and that. And it just felt like ba 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 to me at times. And it seemed to just stop the comic book and stop the visual movement of things, even though Campbell, cleverly puts in her combing her hair and the magical comb she has that changes her hair color while she's doing thinking and things like that. But the second time, I think I focused more on what Campbell was trying to get at. And I think it's an interesting play. I think she's working on an interesting play of identity and connecting to your past or not being connected, and who are you really? Because we do get two Supergirls in here. And one is the one we see here, which seems like in not traditional, but kind of a traditional look for Supergirl. And then we got another one that has a very different body type, and and confusion ensues about who is who. And I think it's intriguing to me because I know that Sophie Campbell used to be Ross Campbell, so Sophie Campbell has some experience with changing identities, and I'm curious to see where she goes with all of this. And it is fun to go back to Midvale. My daughter and I read two omnibuses, I think, or was it one omnibus? Anyway, all of the Silver Age Supergirl stories, we read just about all of them together, and they're very goofy but kind of fun. And so this comic takes you back to Midvale and Dick Malvern and Mr. and Mrs. Danvers, who adopted Supergirl after she spent some years in the Midvale orphanage. Yeah, so I will be getting both because my daughter wants to read it, and now I'm more intrigued. I will for the meanwhile, for however long we both are still interested, be getting more Supergirl. Also on a whim, I do a lot of whim buying. Uh, I picked up Far Down Below. It looked somewhat interesting, and it was from Mad Cave, and I'm curious about all the books that Mad Cave's putting out. So I got issue 1 and 2. I'm not sure when issue 2 came out, if there's an issue 3 out there that I've already missed, or I need to keep an eye out for it because I am intrigued. It's a very quirky story with a lot of different elements at play, although it is at its core, there's a Hollow Earth conspiracy, secret Hollow Earth discovery in the mix, and two young boys, and things that their grandparents and parents have done. Um, it's taking a while to roll out all the information, but I'm hoping to get issue 3. The art had this weird kind of fuzzy look to it that I guess had to do with the lighting and stuff, but it didn't immediately appeal to me. But some of the art kind of grew on me. The well lit scenes, you might say. There's a new book in the Shrouded College series called The Cold Witch. The Shrouded College was created by Charles Soule and I think Will Sliney, the artist, but he's not the artist on all the Shrouded College books. So they're doing a series of mini-series, each one about different people who have some involvement with this secret magical organization called the Shrouded College. And there's another magical organization that they revealed in the second series. This is the third series. And now I can't remember the name of it. But we only see the Shrouded College from kind of the outside, from the point of view of people who've been sort of subverted by the Shrouded College and forced in one way or another to be agents of the Shrouded College. So in each miniseries, we learn a little more about the Shrouded College and this magical world on Earth. on modern day Earth that we're dealing with. And there's some pretty cool things that we see in this one. And so I'm kind of excited. I wasn't a super fan of the way the second series ended with it was one about vampires in space. Um, it just I don't know. It seemed cheesy to me, but I'm quite intrigued with this, and I don't think it's a college as in a school so much as a college as like a might have used to have been a gathering of scholars or something like that. Um, yeah. So I'm not sure how. Oh, 5 issues, 5 issues, and I think in the back they say they're going to do a total of 7 series. Am I right? Then in at number 3, the art I really liked was Exquisite Corpses, created by James Tinian and Michael Walsh, who has done a lot of cool horror comics. Sometimes as a writer and artist, sometimes just an artist. And this is a really chunky issue for $5. I think maybe nearly 3 times as long as a normal comic. Um, and it introduces this sort of blood sport game, uh, a secret thing that happens every 5 years where they seal off a small town somewhere in America and send in like 8 different serial killers, each with their own modus operandi, and in here different names. So it's almost like they're wrestlers or something. Layla Blaze, the Congregation, Rascal Randy, the Recluse. Um, anyway, uh, the Lone Gunman. So the Fox Mask Killer, as we see on the cover. So each serial killer has been chosen by one of the richest families in America, and whoever's serial killer wins the game uh, of killing lots of people and then killing the other serial killers, that that family then gets to rule the country secretly for 5 years, and then they do it all over again. Um, so it's kind of a mix of conspiracy theories, over the top kind of ultra violence and horror movies, and um, this kind of pro wrestling sport kind of aspect, in my mind, anyway. I enjoyed it. Um, it doesn't feel very consequential or anything like that because of its kind of just fun over the topness. Also very enjoyable in at number 2, I put Geiger, the latest issue, number 14, from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank and company. And um, as the individual issues, they're a little slight, but each issue does give you some new twists and some fun action scenes. They always make sure to deliver, and I'm enjoying where all of this is going with the twists and the addition of Junkyard Joe, and so a lot of the characters who aren't Geiger have me really interested. He's more and more making Geiger himself not a likable character, and I find that also intriguing, and I wonder where Jeff Johns is going to take all of that. But anyway, really fun read. I don't want to spoil any of the twists and turns. The art has maintained the high quality, the really luminous and effective coloring, and Jeff Johns is just on point with both this and Redcoat with the timing and everything. Although Redcoat remains my favorite at the moment. And last but first, at number 1, Usagi Yojimbo, um, either part 3 of A Thousand Plums or maybe the final issue in The Thousand Plums. It felt like the story wrapped up here. Um, I of the 3, I reread the previous 2 issues because I really wanted to savor the story. And of the 3 issues, I actually liked the middle one the best. But that's not to put down this seeming finale to the story of this village who's being haunted by this sort of demonic creature, and uh, Sakai has just played clever games with who is bad and who is good, and how good results, you just don't get good results out of bad behavior. And I would like to think that's true in general, but at least for this village, uh, the sin of not being hospitable uh, is an important one here, and it's an important one in a lot of cultures. I don't know specifically about Japanese culture, but uh, terrible things happen from a lack of hospitality. And as usual, the pacing, the art, the color. I think we've gone through a couple different colorists. Oh no, it's Hi-Fi Design did the color work. But on the cover is the colorist is E Fuji, and I thought she did the work inside here too, but I guess not. Anyway, great package overall. It wouldn't be wise to pick up this number 3, but you can start at the beginning of any Usagi mini series, or sometimes it's just one story, one issue, or two issues. That's the weird thing here. It says it's part 3 of 5, and then they have a preview of the next cover, and the next cover says it's 4 of 5, but then down below they say next issue Usagi Ojimbo Taboo Part 1. So I wonder if what really is going on is they're going to have a trade called 10,000 Plums, and it will have two stories in it, 10,000 Plums and Taboo. Um, However, I don't know for sure. So when we get the next issue, maybe we'll see that even though it's called Taboo, it's also a continuation of the 2,000 Plums story. Um, but yeah, Usagi Yojimbo is often a number one book for me. So there was no surprises there. I'd say even this Usagi was not like my favorite all time Usagi. It was just a decent Usagi, but a decent Usagi is very good. And all of the books were kind of decent. Maybe nothing, not a week where I had my mind blown, which is maybe I search for that high of getting my comic book brain really blown by a comic book each week. But you can't really expect that every week. But it is probably an aspect of what makes me a comic book addict. So let's quickly look at the large chunk of books I picked up today at the store. And there may have been other books that came out and that weren't at my store. It's just hard to keep track of that. I got out of Alcatraz number 3. Really enjoyed the first 2 issues. I got a facsimile of Fantastic Four: The Coming of Galactus. I have this in many different collected forms, but it's just fun to get it in the facsimile. I'll never own the original issue, I don't think. Um, the issue 3 of Welcome to Twilight from the Minor Threats universe. I haven't read any of the Welcome to Twilight books yet, so that's kind of a bummer. Um, Issue 1 in the latest Thing miniseries, written by Tony Fleeks, who's a writer I've come to enjoy, and the art looks pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. A rare Marvel purchase rather than waiting for digital. Absolute Flash, number 3. This kind of like the Green Lantern one is an extremely decompressed story, so you only get a little bit of information per issue. But I like the artwork a lot more, and the story has a lot of zing to it. Bug Wars number 4. I'm now several issues behind on Bug Wars, so I need to catch up on that. Um, Detective Comics number 1097. Is it? Yeah, still Tom Taylor. I started back up on Detective Comics when Tom Taylor got on it, and I've only read 2 issues, so I'm way behind on that. And I wasn't going to get this. I don't like the cover at all, but I decided, well, I am curious what Dan Slott might do with Superman. I don't know if I think he might have worked for DC in the deep, deep past, but it's been a very long time since he was at DC. So that's interesting. Um, Batman and Robin Year One, issue 7. I'm a couple of issues behind on this, even though this is a book I've been loving, especially because of the Chris Samney art. You can see I'm just behind on a lot. So you may or may not see me. Some of these will get reviewed, and some will be. I need to catch up before I can talk about them in a comic book countdown. But Sleep #1 from Xander Cannon, another book just by him. I think it's black and white with splashes of color now. He did Kaiju Max, which I loved. So I sort of sight unseen put this on my pull list. I don't even know what it's about. I think it's about monsters, but and then of course I'm very excited for the next issue of Redcoat. And we'll see more about Redcoat and the Northerner. And the New Gods from Ram V and Andrade. Andrade. I forgot his first name. But I'm several issues behind on the New Gods too. I do love the art on this. So I hope you're all having a good comic book week, and I will talk to you again soon.